Hey guys, I'm Craig, and today for the Snowboard Guide, we're going to check out the 2026 Custom by Burton Snowboards. So this here is the 2026 Burton Custom, and you might have seen some stuff online about it or even people riding it. And to avoid some confusion, no, you're not wrong. The board does come in two graphics. So the one you might have seen was also probably a 2026. So this is what they call the jungle print, which I think is super cool. It's really cool. And then I think they've got a more kind of subdued, a plainer kind of graphic, which is just a white deck, and it's got like these glow marks around the EST sliders, and I think it's just got a black base with the Burton written in like a glow thing, which I think actually glows in the dark as well, which is super cool. But yeah, this is the jungle print. Some kind of quick facts around the Burton Custom and my Burton Custom. This is the 30th year of the Burton Custom, so it has been a consistent model in the Burton range for 30 years now. So I don't know why it took me so long to ride a custom for the first time, but stoked I did, and I'll talk more about that later. I rode the 158. The shape is directional, which means it's slightly set back, but it is a twin flex. And I also rode the camber. I'm not an old school snowboarder. I've got 20 something years of snowboarding, but bit of a camber fan. Over the years, kind of came back between rocker and that. Thought it was great when I first got on it, but prefer camber personally. But the board also comes in the Flying V, which Burton do, which I think is a great option for those that prefer that. But personally, I prefer the camber. I rode the Burton Custom with the Cartel X binding with their EST technology. And I rode the Burton Custom with the Burton Ion Boa boots, and I ride a size 10. What's also cool about the Burton Custom, apart from it coming in two different graphics and camber and Flying V, is it comes in 15 different sizes. Funnily enough, my 9-year-old son rides the smallest one at the 125. I'm on the 158, and it goes the whole way through to a 170 wide. So I was lucky enough to get a demo of the Burton Custom from Burton in Australia a couple of months ago. I was heading over to Whistler for about a month and then going to Mammoth for a little while as well. So it was late season snow for North America. Spent a lot of time in the park, mainly with my kids, a little bit of all mountain riding. One day of some soft kind of snow, but no real sort of power or anything. But really just kind of cruising around the mountain, side hits, few little rails that my old bones can still put up with, but nothing crazy. Few little jumps, even though they feel strange as I get older. But yeah, just cruising around the mountain and was really keen to check it out. So yeah, the most of the time I spent on this board was at Whistler and on Blackcomb Mountain. And I was absolutely frothing. I wasn't really sure around sizing and stuff. Like when I looked at the sizing, I'm 5'10" and a half and I'm about 98 kilos, but I've always ridden kind of smaller boards. So when I was really snowboarding like 10, 15 years ago, I rode a 156. For years, I just rode the Burton Jeremy Jones in a 156, and that was what I rode absolutely everywhere. So I've still, even though I'm a bigger guy, you know, people might say things about weight or whatever, probably not my height, I'm not that tall. I've always ridden kind of smaller boards. And last few years, kind of been 56, 57, 58. Knowing the Burton Custom's a little bit stiffer, I probably would have gone towards a 156, but they had the 56 in the demo. If I look at the sizing, it's probably a better size for me based off all their specs. And I was frothing to check it out. Like I said, rode the board around Whole Mountain, and pretty much from the first day, boots in the board, it felt really, really natural. What I've really struggled with over the last few years is when I was really into snowboarding, I was riding a lot of twin centered boards. Used to ride a lot more switch than I do now, but everything at that time, I used to ride like a bunch of like I said, Jeremy Jones, and before that, I think it was like 56 or 8 uninked for a while and stuff like that. But I was very centered on my board. Always had the same nose and the same tail. And I don't know if it's like a little bit of an Asperger's-y part of me, but I feel like I still want that even though I'm not riding switch. A couple of years ago, I checked out a board, which I think said it only had like a 1/2 inch setback, but I remember riding it thinking, I felt like it had 6 inches extra nose and tail, and it just wigged me out and I had to get rid of it. So with the reference stances at 22 inches, what I did was I gave 1/2 inch back, but 1 inch forward. So I moved the front binding a little bit further forward than just going at the same sort of width, just to give it more of a centered type stance, and that felt really good. So first couple of days were with it set back a little bit, like as per design, and then as I moved, something just didn't feel quite right. I moved it forward just 1/2 an inch on the front binding, and that felt really nice. Like I said, not a whole lot of switch riding or whatever, but I feel that more centered stance is still really, you know, helps with turning and just maneuvering, you know, spinning from switch to natural, little half cabs, side hits, riding out of stuff switch. It just feels much more natural to me. And once I did that, I felt like I really clicked with the board. Thing was absolutely epic. What I'd also wondered with the Burton Custom was there's the Custom X, which I believe is just kind of a stiffer iteration of the board. Yeah, I'm 98 kilos, so I'm on the heavier side, and my weight sits outside what they recommend for this board that I think taps out at like 86 or 91 kilos. But it felt absolutely fine. Like I said, I've always ridden smaller boards and softer boards. A lot of my time now with my kids, they're just pretty much in the park. I think our time at Mammoth, we didn't go off the Unbound lift. For those familiar with Mammoth, it was just in the park for like a week, which is cool because I love watching them ride. And there's side hits and it's a whole lot of fun, and there's a mini pipe there and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I like that kind of more centered stance with a kind of equal nose and tail sort of distance. So moving that forward felt really, really natural. There were no real downsides to the Burton Custom. From, you know, my first run through to the last day I rode it, it felt absolutely epic. I have been riding for the last few years the Deep Thinker by Burton. I've had like 3 versions of it, and I didn't know coming, that's got a kind of directional shape, but again, I moved that up and I can talk more about that because we've got a counterbalance review coming up. But I didn't know how to go on this because the different shapes that felt really, really natural. It felt like I hadn't really had time off snow, except for the normal, you know, dusting off the cobwebs, not snowboarding for 5 months or whatever. But yeah, I absolutely love the Burton Custom and pretty keen to actually grab one for the quiver for this year outside of boards that we're reviewing. Yeah, no real down points to it. Felt like it could work well in all over the mountain. You know, it was fast, it felt really stable, and it felt like it really performed well in the park. Something I was frothing on, got to a few little pipe runs. I'm not hitting the 22 footers. Really, it's quite daunting. But where Whistler had a 13-foot pipe this year and Mammoth had an 11-foot pipe, thing felt super stable, felt lots of fun, nice pop, could get out of the pipe, felt in control. Thing felt absolutely awesome. Overall, the Burton Custom says it is for an intermediate to an advanced rider, and I think that's definitely true when you look at the Burton Custom with camber. But if you're looking at the Flying V, I think that might be a bit more forgiving to like a high beginner to an intermediate rider, and then even through to advanced if a Flying V or more of a rocker style camber is what you're used to. But yeah, the Burton Custom with camber, definitely for like an intermediate to an advanced rider that enjoys riding the whole mountain. Yeah, and that's it. Look, thank you so much to everyone at Burton Australia for the opportunity to check out the Burton Custom. Spewing, it took me 30 years to check one out, but frothing, I did get to check one out. And I'm frothing to ride it more through the Australian season, which is about to kick off. If you've got any questions or whatever, put them down below. Be awesome if you could subscribe, but also check us out on Instagram at The Snowboard Guide, and give us a follow. But you can ask any questions, board you want to review, board you want to boards you want to see reviewed, any follow-up questions with this, or to see anything else we've got coming up in the pipeline. Anyway, thanks for watching.